Hello, and welcome back to the Wallfacer podcast. Today's guest is DeFi Made Here, DMH, the head of growth at Instadapp and Fluid. DMH, welcome to the pod.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and hi everyone. Glad to meet you.
Yeah, my pleasure. After having the chance to go deep on Fluid recently, I was really excited to have you on and talk more about the protocol. But I guess before that, I'm curious how you, whatever extent you're willing to share about your background, what were you doing before Instadapp and how did you get involved and get excited in the first place?
So let me start, how I got into crypto overall. I was working in a very different industry. It was oil and gas industry. And during COVID time, I got stuck abroad and I couldn't come back home because the airplanes didn't fly. Yeah. At that moment, I told myself, okay, I need to do something else. I want to change my occupation. And then I started looking for something new and I discovered crypto. So I just started studying crypto, how it works, what is it all about, what is like trading and so on. And after like more than 1 year, maybe after 1.5 years, I started interacting with crypto. I started buying something. I started doing something. Then I found out about DeFi. I heard about this concept that you can lend your money and start earning on it, like on the internet, and it's not a scam. So I started trying out all those DeFi protocols, all the yield farming strategies. And then I decided to start writing about it. I started writing about like my journey in crypto, about my vision. Slowly, I became, let's say, full-time into crypto. I started working in the crypto investment fund. And so then I started slowly contributing to different. And then in October 2023, so exactly 1 year ago, I read Instadapp released an article about Fluid, what they're building. I read that article and I realized this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, the best design, and it's such a brilliant architecture, and I started living Fluid. I believe that this will be the next big thing. And I reached out to the team. I started contributing to the protocol to some extent. And after 6 months, they offered me to join them full-time. So since April this year, I am full-time with Instadapp and working on Fluid growth.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned that as you started writing initially, you had this vision of crypto and DeFi and where you thought it might go. Was that aligned with what you eventually saw in Fluid, or did sort of the Fluid design maybe change your thinking?
No, I mean, like Fluid design changed my thinking a lot. And when I started, it was like back then it was 2020. It was actually January 2022 when I started writing. And back then I was like quite naive, and you remember those crazy yields on chain, like you get 100% on meme digit box or something like that. And I was naive at that moment, and I was more about this farming strategies, yield farming strategies especially for stable coins. But quite fast, I realized that this is all like not sustainable. I got more or less popular on Twitter when I wrote a thread about UST 1 month before it's collapsed. That it cannot work like that. And after the collapse happened, I completely changed my risk profile. I started seeing the risks very clearly. I immediately identify who is the counterparty and which piece of chain in the system I'm taking as a liquidity provider or as a yield farmer or something. And it's became much easier for me to navigate in the space and to avoid risks, to avoid drugs, to avoid exploits. I would say I almost didn't participate in any like exploits or drugs, only very small amounts probably. But yeah, so I became more risk averse.
I see. Yeah, I think that UST moment was seminal for a lot of people's thinking and development around crypto and understanding risk in a much deeper way. Unfortunately, some people had to learn that lesson in a very challenging manner. But I guess we've mentioned Fluid a few times here, and it's possible that our listeners don't know what Fluid is. Can you just at a very basic level, maybe first describe the relationship between Instadapp, Fluid, and that whole evolution, and then also tell us what Fluid is?
Yeah, with pleasure. I will start with Instadapp. Instadapp was the original company founded back in 2018 or 19. So it's 5 to 6 years old. And Instadapp has still its main first product is called Instadapp Pro. It had up to 15 billion in TVL, and it's a middleware for the users to access DeFi protocols, and it gives access to more advanced strategies such as refinancing, flash loans, and stuff like that. And over time, Instadapp launched more products. One of them was Instadapp Lite. It's a yield. Actually, it's a protocol with yield strategies. Currently, there is only one yield strategy, which is like ETH looping. We have around 580 million stake ETH minted there. And we are working now on more vaults there, so people will have more opportunities to earn yield. And then Instadapp launched Avocado Wallet. It's a smart account wallet and it's an account abstraction wallet. And the latest product is Fluid. On a very high level, Fluid is a lending market and Fluid is a DEX. But you need to understand that it's much more complex than that. And both lending market and DEX are the most efficient on the market. So very high loan to value ratios, very low liquidation penalties, and very high capital efficiency on the DEX.
Yeah, and just a testament to how long Instadapp has been around. When I was going back researching for this podcast, I saw a post from the Instadapp team that at one point had said that Instadapp had the third most TVL in DeFi behind Maker and Compound. And that was with only like $15 or $30 million worth of TVL. So just as a testament to what, like the amount of TVL you used to be able to have to be the third largest protocol. So Instadapp's been there for a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but then Instadapp grew to 15 billion in TVL. Since then, we now have, across all our products, we have around 2.5 billion. But two will beat our previous records, I'm sure.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about this evolution from Instadapp into Fluid. So my understanding from the outside of a product like Instadapp when it first launched was that it was, and maybe still is, very focused on kind of giving people an easier way to access DeFi, more sophisticated products products like Avocado Wallet, for example. And how did Fluid evolve out of all of this? Was it always something the team was thinking, or did it happen organically?
Let's say it was not planned in the very beginning. When Instadapp was launched, there were not so many protocols there in existence. And because Instadapp, it was built on top of our other products. It was built on top of Maker, on top of Compound, Aave, Uniswap, on top of others. We saw what users need, what are the demands, where we can improve, what we can take as an example, where we can innovate. And with all this knowledge and experience, team started building Fluid. And they wanted to build Fluid. This is the whole idea, the whole mentality of the team. If they create something, if they build something, it should be like 10x better than anything else that is existing on the market. You cannot build, let's say, a protocol which is a few percent more efficient than, like, you can build a lending market which is 2% more efficient than our, and expect that someone will use you here. You have to completely innovate. You have to offer to the market something absolutely new and something which improves the way how they interact with the markets. Only then you can expect that you can get success. You are still not guaranteed, but you can at least expect that we will have success. So the team was keeping this in mind when building Fluid, and the way we built it, it's, for me, I'm biased of course, but it's just a piece of art.
Yes, the kind of whole system there as well. So let's stop beating around the bush. Let's get into actually what Fluid is and how the many pieces of it fit together. I recognize this is maybe not the easiest thing to describe, but I'll leave it as an open question for you of just what is Fluid and all the different pieces.
So Fluid is a single contract with, we call it liquidity layer. So all liquidity which comes to Fluid from different sources, from different protocols, it comes to liquidity layer. On top of this liquidity layer, we build different protocols. One of them is lending and borrowing market. Another one is DEX. There are some small protocols built on top of it. There will be bigger protocol built on top of it, and so on. So the idea is that there is a one base liquidity layer, And on top of that, we plug in new protocols. And because the liquidity is shared across all the protocols, we can achieve this extreme levels of efficiency, and we can allow for new concepts in DeFi which haven't been yet realized. Yeah, does it make sense, or should I stop somewhere?
So you mentioned, okay, so there's a few things. There's Fluid, the protocol. And in my understanding, the protocol Fluid is based around this concept of a liquidity layer. You can think about it as a shared liquidity layer that other protocols and applications can be built on top of. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes.
Great. So then I think my follow-up question would be, how do these multiple protocols, so you mentioned the DEX, the lending protocol, how do they all tap into this shared liquidity layer? And what is unlocked as a result of that?
Great question. Thank you. Let's start with the lending market. First of all, how do we have this extreme efficiency? Lending markets are quite simple, I think. If you think, you can lend and then you can borrow, your borrowed amount, your debt is always less than your collateral. If your debt is increasing, your collateral is decreasing in value, you get liquidated. It's hard to innovate here. But what we did, we changed the liquidation engine. So liquidation engine works very different than it works with other lending markets. And basically what it does, it stores all the collateral as a trading liquidity at discount. So whenever there is one position flagged for liquidation or 1 million positions flagged for liquidations, all liquidity is becoming available to trade upon, and traders getting a discount on their trades. And discount is actually a liquidation penalty. So whenever there is a position flag for liquidation on Fluid, traders can become liquidators by using DEX aggregators. If you make a swap on DEX aggregator, your trade will be routed towards Fluid liquidation engine because trader is getting discount on his trade, or he is getting X when he is trading on top of this liquidity that has to be liquidated. And this allowed us to increase LTVs. We have liquidation thresholds are as high as 9% on Fluid. This is the highest in the industry by wide margin. And liquidation penalties are extremely low as 0.1%. Again, this is up to 100x or more than 100x more efficient than on any other lending and borrowing protocol. So,
so on the liquidation piece then, I think I, as someone who's perhaps borrowing in the system, would hear that and say, okay, that sounds great from my perspective. I guess the logical question someone might ask if they're interacting maybe on the other side, is there additional kind of risk that they're taking on in this situation? How should they think about interacting with the protocol from the other perspective?
Yeah, also a great question. Like lenders, they might ask, okay, but am I at risk now? Because if loan doesn't get liquidated, there is a bad debt I cannot withdraw and I lost money. Like the first questions when people were asking us back then when we launched and sometime after that. But over time, first of all, we showed how resilient is this liquidation engine, because I remember in August, Ethereum went down by 16% in 4 minutes, and we didn't have any troubles with liquidations. There was no bad debt, no troubles with that. That's first thing. Second thing is that when innovations happen, say with the same logic and say we can put maximum 50% LTV, and then say, okay, we are the safest protocol in the whole space, because we have the lowest LTVs and no bad debt is possible. And if you go to, let's say, some other compound, they have 80% LTV, then these protocols are not safe. So it doesn't work like that. It works, either the system works, the liquidation system works, or it doesn't work. And because it works as intended, borrowers get better conditions, and lenders, they also get better conditions, because first of all, lenders are often borrowing. If you lend ETH and you borrow your lender and borrower at the same time. This is first thing. And second thing, that it allows to increase efficiency of the whole. So the yields go higher. For example, now we have very high borrowing rates on Fluid. Because there is always a very high demand to borrow from Fluid, and people are willing to pay more on Fluid than on any other lending market, only because they get this better terms on Fluid. And because of that, lenders they get 12% AR on USDC lending, which is 2-3 times more than on any other lending market.
Yes, you mentioned something that I actually want to just dive into a bit more, which is that borrowers often have better rates on Fluid. Just to explain for the listeners, why would that be the case? Why should they expect a more competitive rate here at Fluid?
Actually, borrowers are paying more now because what I told you, there's too much demand for borrowers for borrowing, and there are not enough lenders yet to meet the borrowing demand. But over time, our rates will become better. I will explain this when I start talking about the DEX, how we are able to give the best rates on the market with the help of the DEX, which is built on Fluid.
Got it. Okay, I see that then. There's a lot of interesting kind of trade-off that we're outlining here around capital efficiency, trade-offs around risk, just things that I think users will generally be curious about. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Fluid, from my reading of it, is that you've built a system where capital is always at work in multiple ways. And you've alluded to this already, as you mentioned, the DEX and how that feeds into the overall experience. Can you maybe talk about how capital is utilized across these different protocols on top of Fluid? And from a user perspective, how that might change the way that they think about interacting with DeFi?
Yeah. So as I told before, all liquidity from every protocol built on top of Fluid, it goes to the same liquidity layer. And with every new protocol contributes to the whole system. It increases liquidity. It allows to borrow more, to utilize more assets on the DEX, and so on. While the risks are very isolated, so the DEX risks are separate from the lending risks, and so on. Everything is separated, despite the liquidity is utilized everywhere. It will take too much time to explain this part in detail, but users have to opt in or out into the DEX LP.
Sorry to cut you off, but I was just going to say, feel free to explain as much as you want. I think that is the piece of Fluid that for many people is just tough to wrap their heads around. So anything that helps to grasp that opt-in piece and all of that is, I think, really useful.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the DEX and how we utilize debt as trading liquidity. And probably it will give some answers. So we launched the DEX just yesterday, actually, and we already have liquidity is coming in already more than 40 million in trading liquidity with zero incentives to provide that. And already big volumes, not so big yet, but we're about to monopolize some of the markets because we only launched with 3 pools and we don't have enough stable coins to build deep liquidity for USDT and USDC. But overall, the DEX market is very healthy and people can see that themselves already. So talking about the DEX, we introduced several novel concepts. One of them is called Smart Collateral and another one is called Smart Net. Smart Collateral allows you to utilize your Fluid DEX LP as a collateral on Fluid lending market. So you can provide, for example, CBBTC, wrapped BTC, DEX LP, and you can borrow against it. Yeah, you can borrow stable coins, for example. If you think about Uniswap, you can only provide CBBTC LP there, and you cannot do anything else with that. Yeah, Fluid allows you to borrow against it or to leverage your liquidity. And Smart Debt is a concept that allows borrowers to earn trading fees on their debt. So we're transforming liabilities into a productive asset. How does it work? Because as you understand, debt doesn't have TVL, debt doesn't have liquidity. So how are the traders trading on top of the liquidity? Let me explain this part. For example, you have ETH collateral and USDT, USDC smart debt. Yeah, the smart debt, same as smart collateral, they always consist of 2 tokens. So for example, you have USDT and USDC smart debt. That means that you, as a borrower, you accept that your debt can be in one or another token. It can be in USDT or USDC in any proportion. If you borrowed $1,000 of USDC debt, your configuration of your debt can be from $1,000 in USDT and $0 in USDC, all the way to $0 in USDT and $1,000 in USDC. So you accept that your debt configuration can change. It doesn't increase in value. The trading fees are actually paying your debt. So in case if there is a lot of trading volume, trading APR, say, goes to 10% and borrowing APR is 5%, then you're getting paid 5% to borrow. And even if trading APR is only 2% and borrowing APR is 5%, then your borrowing costs are reduced by 2%, and now your borrowing costs are only 3% APR. So what I was saying is that as a borrower, you accept that your debt can be in USDT or USDC. So when a trade is routed through a smart debt, the trader is basically repaying one part of the debt and borrowing another part of the debt on your behalf. So if he's trading 100 USDT to 100 USDC, he's repaying 100 USDT of your debt and he's borrowing 100 USDC of your debt. So he changed the configuration of your debt and you got paid trading fees. But since there is no liquidity in the pool, for example, we have $6 million of USDT, USDC and XLP on Fluid with $0 in TVL. We don't have traditional XLP where users have to put to log their capital and it sits there idle. We only have smart debt for USDT and USDC. And we created 6 million of trading liquidity, basically out of thin air. So from where liquidity comes? It comes from the liquidity layer because we have USDT and USDC lenders. They lend their stable coins and users can borrow it. So the trader, he is borrowing stable coins. There is, let's say, no swap. He is borrowing stable coins, but he's borrowing on behalf of the borrower.
I recognize it is complex to explain. Maybe I can try and take it from a bit of a novice outsider's perspective here. Where this feels different to me than a system, say, like Aave, where if you borrow on Aave, your collateral can be utilized, if it's a whitelisted collateral, to offset your borrow rate, essentially, right? Same with something like Spark, but not at a system like Compound, I believe. So it is in some respects similar to that, and that the collateral you post can be utilized to offset your borrower rate. The difference here, as I understand it, is that your collateral can be used for DEX liquidity, which kind of opens up A, a new use case there, and B, there is also this aspect in which as long as it's a like asset, so like a stable coin to a stable coin, and someone using the lending market as a borrower is somewhat indifferent about the type of collateral, it's possible that their USDT can become USDC and vice versa. Maybe I got that last part wrong, but correct me.
So first of all, we can have any type of assets in smart debt and smart collateral. So it can be your smart debt can be ETH, USDC. It doesn't have to be stable coins. We launched initial 3 pools of, let's say, packed coins or stable coins, state ETH, or BTC, BTC, and USDT, USDC. But in the next 1-2 weeks, we'll be introducing these volatile pairs: USDC, smart collateral, smart debt, and ETH, BTC, and whatever makes sense. So this is one thing. Another thing that, like your collateral is earning lending yield because someone is borrowing it, for example. But also your collateral can be used as a DEX liquidity, and it gives you extra APR. So you're getting both lending APR and you're getting trading APR. And actually, if we speak about like how smart collateral is used on the DEX, there is also no swap. The trader is depositing and withdrawing. So, for example, you have stake ETH smart collateral. When trade happens, is depositing more stake ETH, and he's borrowing, and he's withdrawing ETH from the collateral of the user. This is how the trade is happening on the smart collateral side. It's deposit and withdraw, and on smart debt, it's repay and borrow. It's different. It's not the classical DEX. It's different design and it works differently, but it's way more efficient.
So I guess just one last question on this then is, on the example you just gave of smart collateral, smart debt, deposit, withdraw, repay, what if this other side of that doesn't net out? And I guess what I mean is, say one swap happens of someone going from stETH to ETH, and then the person whose collateral that is goes to withdraw, quickly following that function that just happened, that swap that just happened. Is their collateral now offset into something different? Or is the reverse of that transaction happening on the withdrawal?
Because let's say smart collateral and smart debt, you accept DEX LP risks. If if traders are selling stake ETH, you as a DEX LP, you're buying the stake ETH something. So if your LP turns, it was 50-50, now it's, for example, 70-30. Now it's 70% in stake ETH and 30% in ETH. And same on Fluid, it's same DEX LP logics in terms of like your assets, your LP your configuration of your LP can change. Yeah, it can go from stake ETH to ETH, from 50-50 to 70-30, and so on, as the trading goes.
That I'm following more as you outlined that. So that makes sense to me, I think. Maybe let's take a step back from the very in the weeds details of Fluid. Talk again about this concept of the liquidity layer. So today, the protocols that are built on top of it, the lending market, the DEX protocol, they're built by the Instadapp/Fluid team as well. Is there a future where other teams can also somehow plug into this infrastructure and build on top of it? And how do you guys envision that over time?
Everything, what's happening with Fluid, with liquidity of Fluid, everything is governed by INST, by token holders. So team cannot build a new protocol and put it on top of Fluid, like a Fluid liquidity layer like that. Yeah, we need the INST holders, they have to vote to allow that. So any other team, they can build on top of it. And if INST holders vote and accept that the protocol that other team built, it will be plugged into the liquidity layer. Of course, we are very cautious about that because again, let me return a bit back when we were speaking about this high LTVs, that it brings more risks. Also, like single liquidity layer, it brings more risks, but this is how the industry is moving. Uniswap before, they are moving to this single liquidity layer. Balancer with E, they are moving to the single liquidity layer. Fluid is doing the same. So actually, I think Balancer was the first one who put it in production. Fluid is the second one. I don't remember when Balancer with 3. Probably Fluid was the first one, and Balancer is the second one, and Uniswap was the third one to introduce that. Industry is moving to more efficient designs. So what I'm saying is that having this single liquidity layer, it's risky. We cannot accept any like random collateral. Yeah, we cannot accept any random protocol built on top of that. There are risks to the liquidity layer. So other teams, they can build, but they have to build it very securely, and then any stakeholders, they can vote for it and accept that the design of the protocol, and it can plug in on top of the liquidity layer.
Got it. Okay. That's exciting to see. Do you guys have any kind of concept of when? So I guess there's another question there too, which is, do you imagine net new protocols being built on top of the liquidity layer, or do you think existing protocols will be excited to plug into that? I guess maybe one, what are you more excited about, and what are you seeing today in teams you might be talking to?
I think, I'd say we are not like speaking with other teams now with things that we cannot be good at everything. And there are any protocol that requires on-chain liquidity can be built on Fluid. It can be markets, it can be RWA, it can be prediction markets, it can be loans, it can be Forex. Everything can be built on that. And so obviously we are not experts in every field. So I expect that in the future we'll collaborate with other teams, to build protocols on top of Fluid. We'll be building our own products, more protocols on top of Fluid for sure. We have some plans for that. It takes time, but overall we have plans to build more protocols, and they will be coming live in the next months. But in the future I expect that we'll collaborate with some other teams to build on top of Fluid. It makes a lot of sense for everyone. Yeah, it makes sense.
Nice. That is something I think I'd be especially excited to see, as just from differentiating perspective. Something that I maybe observe as I'm seeing more of Fluid and learning more is that if you think about the traditional kind of lending markets today, generally speaking, they are siloed, right? They have their own ecosystems, and sometimes they do plug into each other with maybe a MakerDAO, D3M or something like that. But generally they live in their own ecosystems and they're incentivized for their own singular growth. The layer here does unlock this capability to maybe build something that feels more like an ecosystem around Fluid. And I guess a question there is, as you look at the existing DeFi landscape today, when it comes to either DEXs or lending in general, how do you approach the competition versus partnering with some of the existing protocols. How do you guys view that?
Yeah, there are protocols like Morpho and Euler. They are more modular. They
Absolutely.
they're like say permissionless. Yeah, you can start your own market there, but they are, let's say, if we are talking about Morpho, it's not the most efficient design. Yeah, because if you create your own market, it has like zero TVL and nothing. But it's permissionless. The benefit of Fluid that if you launch a new protocol on top of Fluid, it taps into the same liquidity. So like from day one, you have super deep liquidity, but it's not permissionless, which I think if we look at the current state of protocols, permissionless protocols doing better than let's say protocols that allow anyone to tap in. And collaboration with other teams come from, let's say, partnerships, having collaterals from other protocols, having stable coins from other protocols. For example, like Stakey, they have their collateral on Fluid, and they really like Fluid protocols. They want more Stakey to be on Fluid. The partnership which we had, it's not official partnership, but with EtherFi, yeah. Then is launching and seeding Go market, which is new for them as well, but they see the benefit of using Fluid, the benefit of Fluid DEX, what it brings to Go. That's why they're like launching and seeding the Go market on Fluid. We believe that Fluid will become this biggest protocol in DeFi. The more and more protocols will be collaborating with us, and we will be collaborating with more protocols. Yeah, it works this way, let's say.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point there, which is that the existing, call them winners in DeFi lending, are these more permission markets where there's processes to add new collateral types and assets, and et cetera, et cetera. Whereas the current wave of challengers, you could say, in lending are all of these very modular and permissionless type of markets. You mentioned Morpho, Euler, even though they're much smaller. I'd throw someone like an Aja in there, even like people who are thinking about these things much differently. Yeah, where do you see the trade-offs there? You talk a little bit about them, but I'd be curious if you have any additional thoughts.
Yeah, like trade-offs that, let's say, like you can, for example, in theory, you can imagine, let's say BlackRock, they say, okay, we want our own lending market, and they create it on Morpho. In theory, this can, and they cannot, they will not come to Fluid, and they will not say, okay, give us like some separate market, like we want to build something on top of that. This is a trade-off, but from them, if we look at market demands, like what users need, how they interact with DeFi protocols, how they interact with the markets, we think our approach fits better the current market conditions, let's say.
Interesting. Yeah, at least if history is a guide, then yes, I would be inclined to agree. We've talked about some of these protocols, maybe a little bit of a spicier question, but I guess which, if any, do you view as the most competitive? Whether that comes from conversations with LPs and where they're thinking about putting their liquidity, or just in terms of who else you admire and think is being the most inventive these days?
So I would say DEX is like just next level. Yeah. Because lending market by every parameter, it's better than any other existing lending market in DeFi. Yeah, like by parameters such as TVLs and liquidation penalties. And yeah, like we don't have, say, competition in that. But probably users still see it like as a little improvement, despite it's a very big improvement. But it's not such a fundamental improvement for most of the users. While the DEX brings really novel concepts that change the way how users will provide liquidity. Because I'm saying, like what I told, that we have zero TVL in USDC DEX LP, but we already created 6 million of trading liquidity. And we would have created more, but we don't have enough stablecoin supply. Like all stablecoins are utilized on Fluid. Like, I mean, you cannot borrow without increasing rates to very high values, then increasing the borrowing rates to very high values. Once we have more stablecoin supply, there will be more debt generated. There will be more liquidity generated from the debt. And let's say it will be 20 million pool. So 20 million of trading liquidity generated with zero TVL. This is the main innovation and the thing that will change the concept of providing liquidity. And then we can speak about REP BTC, CBBTC, DEX LP with 250K of liquidity, it generated 10 million in DexLP. Stakey ETH market, same. Like with 3 million, you can generate 117 million of DexLP. So this concept of using that as liquidity, it changes the whole way how users are providing liquidity, and we are liberating that capital that can be used elsewhere and can generate some extra yield and so on. So the DEX is just groundbreaking. Probably hate these people who work at protocol and say, okay, our protocol is groundbreaking, but I just don't have any other words. It's good.
Hey, no requirements to be humble here. So please, groundbreaking is totally fine way to describe it. And actually, just on that note, if I to boost your own ego then, I guess, in the groundbreaking element, it seems as if the market has been receptive to that as well. I believe pretty quickly after you guys launched, you got to about 400 million in lender or LP side TVL pretty quickly. And I don't think you guys had any kind of token incentive programs or anything as well. How did that happen exactly? How were you able to attract so much liquidity so fast?
Yeah, we don't have incentives. We only have incentives for USDT and USDC lenders. We give, we generate revenue, and we give this revenue, we give them stable coins, yeah. So USDT and USDC lenders, they get extra APR coming from stablecoins rewards. And we basically need only them. We need stablecoin providers because we never had a lack of borrowing demand of Fluid because, as I told you, people know what are the benefits. They know that they get better conditions on Fluid. But yeah, we have to find stablecoin lenders. And other than that, yeah, in the first 90 days, we reached 800 million market size, which we were very happy. And then actually after those, because it was we reached it in May, and May was the top of the market. And then market fell down a lot. Our liquidity also decreased on Fluid in USD terms. In ETH terms, we are consistently growing. In USD terms, we are now back to 800 million. So it went at one moment to 600. Now it's back to 800 million. Again, I think just people realize this is a good product. And for us, the bottleneck for us is stablecoin liquidity. Hard to get lenders for some reason, but we are trying.
Yeah, on that note, your vaults your yields are typically top performers on our site, vaults.fyi, especially in the category of vaults that are bigger than $50 million in TVL. Normally, you start to see a bit of a decline in yields as the vaults start to scale. How are you guys maintaining this today, kind of despite the very high TVLs? And do you expect any challenges with that in the future as these vaults continue to grow?
No, we don't expect challenges because borrowing demand is high. So as long as people are borrowing, the utilization rate is high and lending rates are high. Unless the markets become super bearish and nobody wants to borrow and so on, yeah, then it will be difficult. But other than that, it's pure it's organic lending rates, yeah, paid by the borrowers, and borrowers want to borrow on Fluid. I think over time it will decrease because lenders will see that they can earn more and they will be lending more, and maybe there will be less borrowers over time. But overall, yeah, we don't see a reason why the rates would decrease.
Makes sense to me. And even just taking a look right now at vaults.fyi, of everything we track today, I'm looking at vaults above 50 million in TVL, and you guys have the second highest 30-day average APY for the Fluid USDC vault. It's got 87 million in TVL, average 30-day yield of 9.3, and the only thing higher than it right now is Athena. And this is excluding token incentives. So that's a very impressive yield.
Yeah, Athena has a higher yield. But by the way, actually, Athena, when Athena was launching, I also told that Athena will bring the yields on chain higher. Yeah, they will make it more equal to the rates, to the funding rates on the CEXes. And this is what we are seeing right now also, because it makes sense that users can just move to Athena if they see that they get 4 or 5% on the lending market. Why not to move to Athena and get 3 times more or 2 times more? So Athena is also has impact on the lending rates and borrowing rates in DeFi, I assume.
Absolutely. So jumping around a little bit, just as we're getting a little bit close to our time here, I'm curious how you guys have thought about some of your multi-chain expansions so far. So I believe today you guys are on ETH, Base, Arbitrum. How have you gone about deciding what networks to launch on and any kind of big plans that you could share of where you might be next?
Yeah, we are not exploring new chains at the moment. So we launched on Arbitrum Base because we think this decent chains with organic usage and they have big growth potential. We are not focusing on these chains much, but it will be our priority. Once we stabilize the DEX on Ethereum, we'll be prioritizing L2s as well, growth there. And yeah, overall, if we are launching a new market, if we are launching on a new chain, we have to be sure that this is a sustainable chain where we can grow to at least, let's say, 200 million market size without any external incentives or without some points programs or something like that. So we need organic chains with organic demand, organic usage where we can grow. Yeah, and Arbitrum and Base are the more active chains on EVM right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. Is there any chance that we will see a fluid L2 in the future? I guess there's an extent where the liquidity layer feels it's already got layer in the name.
Long term, I think this is possible having when everything works smoothly between all chains and so on. Probably it makes sense to have own, let's say, rollup or L2 or whatever, and will facilitate all this cross-chain swaps using DApp as liquidity for all chains. This will be very cool. No immediate plans as of now, but for the future, it can happen. But again, this is something what we are not discussing heavily inside the team.
Okay, got it. All right, I guess as we're coming to the end, I have some questions about how the token INST itself has evolved over time. So when INST was first launched, I forget when that was, 2020 or maybe something like that, I think Fluid wasn't really on the radar yet. So as a result, how has the token kind of evolved over time to fit within the Fluid ecosystem and whether for governance or whatever other use cases there are?
Yeah, so let's say when the token was launched and over last years, there were not so many, let's say there were no proper plan, there were no proper focus on this token. Now, since we built Fluid and since it's growing fast, we want to change our tokenomics. We want the same as we believe that Fluid will be the biggest protocol in DeFi. We want to make sure that the token will be also one of the most valuable tokens in the space. So this one thing was what we want to improve. And yeah, for now, the use case is governance and it will change. But I think that governance is a very strong use case for the protocols that make money, as the protocols that have some use case, the protocols that generate revenue. If you control the governance, you control the cash flow. Yeah, you can do a lot of things if you control the governance. So it's valuable in my opinion, but we will be changing, we'll be doing some changes to make it even more valuable in the eyes of the community.
Yeah, makes sense. And I'll certainly be excited to follow along on those as well. So one last question to wrap up, and it's a bit of a challenging question, a bit of a softer one, right? I think within crypto, there's this idea of blue chip protocols, right? Lido, Maker, Compound Aave, things that have really stood the test of time. I think given the vision you've laid out today, Instadapp certainly has, as more people understand Fluid, there is a great opportunity for that as well. How do you guys think about that sort of process of establishing yourselves as this household name within crypto? How is it that Fluid becomes top of mind for more and more users throughout the industry?
This is the biggest challenge for us, to be honest, because you need time to establish your name. Yeah, you cannot just come out and on day one you tell everyone, okay, we're a blue chip protocol. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. It takes time to get this community acceptance, and the faster we grow, the more TVL we get, the more people see that DEX volumes going through Fluid, the more people see that there are lenders and borrowers in TVL here. More people will believe that it's a blue chip protocol, but again, it takes time. We try our best to maintain all the best security practices, so people don't have doubts. It's okay, they're growing, but they're growing because they don't care about security, and tomorrow it can collapse and go to zero. Yeah, we saw that when these LRTs were very popular. There was some lending protocols that they were onboarding every possible LRT. They blew up and lost everything. It's not the way we want to go. We are very accurate with SSV onboarding, and we do. Fluid alone has 6 audits. Fluid was launched in February, end of February, and we already did 6 audits for Fluid. All Instadapp products has like dozens of audits and a track record of 6 years. It takes time for people to accept that your protocol is blue chip, but we expect it will be sooner rather than later.
I'm looking forward to that day as well. And I hope that everyone listening has a better understanding of Fluid. If they don't, though, do you have some resources you can point people to, or as follow-ups, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch is to me on Twitter. I speak about Fluid every day. To join our Discord. Again, we don't care if, say, there are protocols that have, for example, Barachain models, they have 100,000 people in Discord. We don't need that, but if you have questions, you can come to Discord, and we are answering all the questions very actively there. We will start doing some, let's say, community sessions also. Like the first one will be tomorrow. We will speak, like everyone can come to Twitter Spaces and ask us about Fluid, DEX, how it works. So we'll be explaining more. And yeah, and stuff like that. We'll have a blog article which explains the DEX thoroughly. But since because it's a new concept, it takes time to understand. It takes a lot of time to understand. So yeah, please ask. You can DM me on Twitter. I will always answer. If not, just go to Discord and ask. I'm active there every day, explaining how everything works.
Great. And I'll be sure to include your Twitter handle in the show notes. And is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I have a lot to speak about Fluid, like really a lot. I didn't tell you how this concept works, how we generate up to $39 of trading liquidity per $1 in TVL, how we can leverage liquidity. But probably this will be something for the next time, or it will be an open questions for the listeners. And maybe if they want to know how it works, they will come to Discord and ask us, or they will research themselves.
That actually sounds like a perfect follow-up. So as a call to action, if people are interested to learn more, Discord's your place. All right, DMH, thank you very much for all the time today. And hopefully we'll have you or Instadapp or Fluid back on again in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.